I have something I'm passionate about, it's my duty to utilize my platform in a way to do good, So whenever you feel nervous to do that selfie or do that, maybe launch that course or begin coaching or start a group, it really typically comes back to mindset.
I am super excited to have you listening to this podcast with Kimberly Olson. I will be introducing her shortly, but in the meantime, I want you to listen in for some key pieces here. One, how she uses a level of honesty and transparency with herself to level up and become unstoppable. She has built a 7-figure business. She has grown a huge social media following, and she is someone who has overcome an alcohol addiction. So if you want to really tap into the tactical strategies for building a social media following, and you want to get those mindset rejiggers to show up unstoppable in your life, please listen in. This is going to be a good one. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Unstoppable Woman podcast. I am here with a very special guest, my colleague, Kimberly Olson, who is a social media maven. I don't know if that's how you self-describe, but I thought I would give that to you. And the creator of Goal Digger, and we're going to dig into what that means in a little bit. But one of the things that she has, the cred that she has, is that she has over 200,000 social media followers, which is outstanding. And we were just talking about that, updating her numbers because I had outdated numbers. And she actually has 75,000 followers on Facebook and 34,000 followers on Instagram, which is just outstanding and amazing. And of course, there are other social media platforms as well. And your reach goes beyond that with your podcast and all of that. So congratulations on that level of engagement and reach. And I want to hear all about it and how you started and what your path was and how you built that. I want the nitty gritty. And I think our audience is going to love that because so many of the women that I work with, not only do they have visibility issues, which, is a thing, but they also just don't know like how to show up on social media. And I'm interested for myself because we're always growing. I want to learn too. So I'm excited. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Well, I love the name of the podcast because when people ask like, what was that moment, because I did not just show up this way, like it's a journey. There's always a story behind it, but I was a stoppable woman for a long time. And I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but just, couldn't quite figure it out on my own and took a job. I was in corporate America for almost 20 years before I got into entrepreneurship. And I was fortunate enough to have, great salaries, awesome, great income. And when we were pregnant with my second, my girls are a year and a half apart. So it was kind of a surprise. Don't drink the water at our house. But I wasn't quite ready mentally. I had postpartum depression with the first one. And we had just built our dream home. We had 2 new vehicles. I mean, we were living the large high life, right? Paycheck to paycheck, but no one could tell that because that's what you do, right? When you have money coming in. And when I was almost due for my second, I got let go from my 6-figure job without notice. And my whole world crumbled because I was always the breadwinner. I was the one that managed our finances. So instead of laying awake at night because you have a new baby, I was sitting there wondering how we're going to pay our mortgage. And so I did my best. I took freelance jobs. I was running a boot camp in my backyard. Like I was hustling, but I fell into a pretty dark depression. I struggled with alcohol abuse and we racked up about almost 6 figures of debt, including our cars and stuff, but we put everything on credit cards, cash in our 401ks. I mean, it was like hard times. And so I took a job locally because you got to do something, right, to pay the bills. And it was about 2.5-hour commute there and back and about half the income. And I would FaceTime into doctor's appointments. I missed my baby's first steps. Like it was the epitome of like mom fail. And my friend kept asking me to do her network marketing business. And I'm like, no, I want nothing to do with that. Well, let me tell you, she was very persistent. So I ran into her at an event and she was like, here, try the product. It's saving the children. And I'm like, oh, save the
Saving
children.
the children,
I'm all about
right?
saving the children. Like,
Right.
okay. So I tried the product. It was actually hair care and I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, I had postpartum hair loss. Like I was the perfect avatar. So she was smart because she figured out my language was to help people. And I said to her, look, we cut up all our credit cards, but I have one secret American Express. So I'm going to put this product kit on here and I'm going to do everything you say for 30 days. If I make my money back, we're in. If not, don't ever talk to me again. So I went hard and I had some initial success, you know, had my first comma check. I was like, okay, this can work. But what happened is stoppable woman. I was still struggling with that alcohol abuse. So what I was doing, and it's in my family on both sides, but I would come home from work and I'm like, and anyone can relate to this. I was like, I just need to take the edge off and have a glass of wine. Well, I'm not like a one glass of wine kind of girl. So I would have another with dinner and another after. We can't really like crush your business if you are intoxicated. So this just went on week after week after week. And one day I woke up and I'm like, you have the perfect opportunity in front of you to change your family tree. You can change your story right now, but you keep self-sabotaging and you're destructive and this is not serving you. You've got to let this go. And so ironically, a friend had reached out to me and she's like, girl, you got to talk to my therapist. She's a Reiki healer, life coach, hypnotherapist. Like she's got it all and she's changing my life and you need to talk to her. So I did. Her name's Michelle Thompson. I talk about her all the time. And I was her, like I was all in. So I did everything she said. I did the mindset work, the writing, the journaling. And 6 weeks in, August 1st of 2017, I woke up. And in the first time in my life, I woke up positive. I woke up speaking truth. I woke up saying, today's my day and I'm going to crush it. And I'm in the driver's seat and I get to decide what this day looks like. And I get to choose how I'm going to show up. And I remember talking to my husband and I'm like, this is it. Like, this is what I've been struggling with. And do you hate me? And he's like, no, I love you. Like, you're good. You're perfect the way you are. And it was like, oh my gosh, like, okay, I'm whole. I'm okay. I'm good. And that was over 3 years ago. I've been in sobriety since then and haven't touched a drop of alcohol since. But what happened that day?
Can we just have a moment?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's crazy. And you keep track of that stuff. You really do. Like the first 30 days is like, you're kind of like, am I going to have it? Like, is this real? And I had tried different things. Like, it's not like I had never tried before. And, it gets easier and easier. Now I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I will never go back because this is so amazing. When you're in it and you're in any kind of addiction, you feel like you have to have that thing and you don't because it has such a grip on you. So anyways, after that, when I was able to really work on my mindset, I said, okay, I'm going to do this different. Like everyone's cold messaging and spamming and ick, right? And I was like, no, I had 250 friends on Facebook and no Instagram in the fall of 2017. And I'm like, I'm just going to start going live. Everyone says go live. So I started going live and I have PhDs in natural health and holistic nutrition. So I'm like, wake up with lemon water. Here's some natural deodorant. Like I had no clue what I was doing, but people started tuning in. And then I was like, let's set a goal. I'm going to be your coach. So I started a Facebook group and they showed up. They were like all in. They're like, teach us. And I started loving that. Like it was the coaching piece. And then they were like, we have goals. Can you help us with our goals? And I'm like, goals, that's like my jam. So I launched my first workshop in December for $9. $9. I had a dozen students.
Somewhere.
Yeah. I know. And I remember that money though. I remember going, honey, I just made $300 on a Saturday morning and I need that money. Like with network marketing, it's great. Like I'm a top recruiter in my current company. Like I love being in the trenches, but when you create something yourself, it's like the most empowering, best feeling ever. But I loved it. Like I fell in love with like helping these people see that they could do it. So in the spring of 2018, I launched the Gold Digger Girl. So I started doing private coaching, group coaching, boot camps. I've written 4 books. I have a weekly podcast. We just passed $1 million this year. So we'll do about 1.1 million this year. And I have had about 3,000 students go through my courses, but it's so cool because I get to see my girls off to school in the morning. I get to be there after. I take them to gymnastics. I sleep 8 hours a night. I love my life. It's like, wow, I can actually have everything I want, but still take care of myself and my family and really give and serve other people. So I feel like I'm the unstoppable woman now. And right. Yeah. And it's such an important conversation to have. And that's why I love, love, love everything that you do. This is awesome.
So what's really exciting about what I heard you say was that you actually saw the issue clearly for yourself, that you stopped actually making excuses and coming up with stories or reasons it has to be this way, and you got help. And then in both places you said this with the network marketing and also the therapist that you went to. I'm going to do everything that she tells me to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that is that all in attitude,
Yeah.
which I think is essential. I know
Mm-hmm.
that on the one hand, I am that. I did that when I signed up for master level coaching and like committed and all of that. But there's also an aspect of myself, a part of me that wants to know better, like wants to be the smart one in the room, wants to have figured it out already,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so talk to me a little bit, because it's so essential, right? If you
It
want
is.
to get to the next level, if you want to jump 5 levels, and you're going to work with someone who's done it before, has some expertise, it doesn't work to say, I'm going to pay you for your expertise, but I'm not going to listen to you. I'm not going to do what you tell me to do.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
going to like second guess everything you say. So do you think that you were born with that perspective? I'm going to do what you tell me. Like, was that something that you were
Oh, no.
brought up with? Did you have to teach that to yourself?
Oh,
How did you learn that?
oh no.
'Cause I had to learn it.
I don't like authority. I'm just like, why are you teaching this way? Like I requested to get off campus as soon as I could in college, because I'm like, y'all, like, let's go. Like, I don't have time for this. So no. But I remember the first coach I invested in, it was 297 or 397. That was a lot of money to me when I first started, because we were getting our way out of debt, And what I remember thinking, oh, should I spend the money? Should I spend the money? It wasn't the money. It was whether or not I thought I would follow through.
Correct.
Was I worth it? Was I worth betting on myself, basically? So I think sometimes we kind of go at it that way, like, oh, do I really need that? Oh, I could just get everything on YouTube, right? But if you actually are at that, like the barrier, you're like up against the wall, you're actually feeling that resistance because you could have a breakthrough. And we'd done a quarter million last year. And I remember, same thing what you just said, I'm like, I coach this, like, I know how to make money. And something was like, yeah, that's true, but you're exhausted. So let's go learn from someone who knows how to scale, which you know how to scale. Let's go learn from someone who knows how to scale the business, how you can get a flagship program, like stop recreating new stuff every month. And luckily someone, you know how it goes, someone tells you about somebody, and her name's Kelly Roach. I got into her coaching program in December, and we launched in January and had a $260,000 launch. That's what I made all the previous year. So I got myself schooled, right? But as soon as I got in there, I was like, oh my gosh, this woman is a genius. Like, she was in corporate America crushing it, brought those business principles over. It's the stuff that stands the test of time, right? I know social media, I know all that stuff, but I don't know about like the real infrastructure and projections and scaling and all that. So I think when you get to that point, maybe you just need to go a little bigger. Find that coach or mentor or mastermind or program to go a little bit bigger. Like, think of Tony Robbins and Bob Proctor coaching program. He worked for Earl Nightingale, you guys. Like, talk about the OG, right? Like, he had someone, he grabbed onto his coattails and said, I'm going to learn. He said he would watch people of how they did their presentations to mimic them in his own way. But he's like, I started talking like them, commanding that audience. How do you think you want to be such a great speaker? Is because he watched the best out there. So I don't know about you, but I'm going to be in a coaching program when I'm 90, like forever.
Absolutely. One of the things that I liked about what I heard you just say was the breadth of the type of coaching that you invest in. Like, some of it is very tactical, and some of it is, Bob Proctor is a genius on mindset.
Yeah.
And you need, I mean, personally, I come from the perspective, well, I used to come from the perspective that you need all the tactical, and like, that's 100% of it, or even 80% of it. But so often people have the tactical, but they don't follow through. They don't actually take the action. Someone could be in this coaching program and not in your coaching program, in anyone's coaching program. And it could be brilliant tactics, but they're not executing because of the inner game. And so I've drunk the Kool-Aid, and now I teach the Kool-Aid, but that you have to really understand like how to move through your blocks and really up levels. So what would you say, I want to get back to how you built your social media presence, because I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
very tactical thing that
Yeah.
people will
But
love.
it's mindset too, because a lot of it's selfies and going live and being vulnerable, don't you
Yeah,
think?
so let's talk about that intersection between the mindset
Okay.
piece and the tactical piece, because I think that's a really important thing that people, there's discernment there, there's nuance there. Like, when do you have to just show up and do the thing, and when do you have to work through your mindset? So speak to me about like some of the early struggles you have, and then why don't you talk about where you're at now, and what are the mindset pieces that you have to get in front of right now to
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're
show up?
always growing, and there's always a new challenge. So when my saying is hashtag get lit, learn, implement, and take action. And one of the things that's so easy for entrepreneurs to fall into this trap of learning, and it's education constipation, where you almost feel like uncomfortable. The reason why that is because you're made to create. We're co-creators. We're made to create. If you're not creating anything, you're going to feel that way.
Mhm.
So what I do, and this has been a really hard discipline, I have a rule that I don't go to the next module until I've implemented. So let's just talk about this in real time. So this week I learned referral marketing, where you have I have a free challenge coming up. And then what I do is I open cart during it. It's like the model.
Mhm.
Well, the referral marketing piece that I learned was you work through your current student base, and there's a whole thing that you do. Well, it's new to me. I've never done this in my life. So, right before the group coaching Tuesday night, I was like, oh, I need to announce this to them. So I just go in Canva, whip up a graphic, post it in there, I tell them about it, how it's going to roll. I've been bumping my way through this every day. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got it. They're posting stuff. They're getting all these leads. I don't even know what to do with them. You know what? It's okay. It's okay. Like, I'm not going into that next training until I get my feet wet with this, fine tune it, get it going. But if I would just blow through all the modules and know all the stuff, one, I'm going to forget it, right? But two, if I'm not implementing, that's the entire point of it, right? So if you're watching something tactical, sometimes, like you said, it's like the actual doing it, but sometimes it's like you don't know how. Like, let's say you're learning about a lead magnet and you're like, but what would I make? That goes into mindset, because you start to go, well, I don't have anything to offer. Yes, you do. If you're alive, you've done something. And then if you say, well,
And
okay,
if you have the standard already that you set, which is I don't go to the next module
yes,
until I execute on this, which is a brilliant standard,
it's tough.
then the lead magnet, using your example, that's the thing that you have to execute on. Then you have some urgency. Then
Yes.
it's like, okay, now I have to go do that. And then your brain comes up, your mind comes up with the ways and the means. Well, it could be this, it could be this, it
Mm-hmm.
could be this, it could be
You're
this.
so right. Your brain does. It goes to work because it wants to go to that next thing, because we want to learn. We learn, we grow. Like, that's just how we're operated. It's our DNA. So, and I don't know about you, but I love going through like training modules and learning stuff. And like, like I have it on my board. I've got 3 coaching programs and all the modules, and I keep track. Like, I can't wait to get to the next one. And I'm like, okay. So it's fun too, because at that pace, you never get exhausted. You actually get inspired. You get fueled by it. It's again a creative process. But then you start getting results, and you're like, okay, like this is actually kind of amazing. So yeah, if it's that Facebook Live or whatever it is, then it starts to be the mindset side of like, oh wait, like, but what about me on camera? No one's going to want to listen to me. You're going to have to address that. And you know what? No one ever feels like whenever I feel really nervous to post, or I went live talking about human trafficking. I don't do a lot with like, that I do more very much like business and coaching and all that. But sometimes something will come up and I'm divine and obedient. And I was so nervous to do this video. Like, I can't even tell you this live, but it went viral. It went bananas. But I was trying to tell people this is happening right now. This is what we can do. Guess what? Just by being nervous and doing that, I grew as a person. Like, it boosted my confidence to say my audience will rally behind me. If I have something I'm passionate about, it's my duty to utilize my platform in a way to do good, So whenever you feel nervous to do that selfie or do that, maybe launch that course or begin coaching or start a group, it really typically comes back to mindset.
Okay, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so now talk to me about brass tacks on social media right now, because I just deemed you the social media maven.
I know, I'm
Okay.
good, like totally
You're
like a
like, flip
t-shirt.
your hair back.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
So how much time do you spend a day, a week on social media? And how do you make it easy for yourself and enlivening and energizing versus like, oh, it's just a thing on my task list that I have to get done and kind of the grind it out mentality around it.
Yeah. Well, if you are trying to do all of it at once, you might get burnt out and feel exhausted. So I would recommend tackling one area of content at a time. So when I launched my podcast, I studied all of the things and launched it and like became, a student, but I was like, all I'm going to do right now is get this whole podcasting thing down. I want it top rated. Like I want it to be awesome. And then once I got that system down, I was able to layer in YouTube and we've grown that. So I would first say pick one at a time because there's a lot of places to be. Find out where you naturally are hanging out anyway. Like if you love TikToks, I mean, I personally like Instagram Reels right now over TikToks because it's easier to go viral. But let's say you love that. You love the 15 seconds. You're super creative. It's working for you. Can you generate leads from it? Yes. I have students of mine that are crushing it. The girl last night was like, Kimberly, I literally can't keep up. I'm like, you need an assistant. But go to the
Good
place
problems
you love.
to have, right?
I know, exactly. I was like, girl, I can help you. Like, let's get you going.
But let's pause there for just 1 second. So I get this idea, like you do the thing and then you build off of it and you go quickly, but incrementally, but quickly. Okay. Mm-hmm. You run the stairs. That's my,
I love that. Run the stairs.
Yeah, that's my adage. It's like run the stairs. It's one step at a time, but you're going to do it quickly. Mm-hmm. But what is it that you have built a team to help you post in all of these places? Because, I have a team and it's like 3 or 4 people that are doing, they're using my content, but they're putting it out there.
Yeah.
So can you talk about when you went from it being all you to, okay, now I need someone to help me execute and implement?
Yes. Yeah. So what I do, and we can put this in the show notes, I have a Trello board where you plan out your whole, like everywhere you're on social media. Okay. So you can just figure out like, what are your topics? What are you going to cover? What's, working? That helps me. I do that once a month. But when I hired Anna, my virtual assistant, she's now my full-time operations director, and I have a couple other people that work for me. I knew I needed her help when I was getting stuck by growth because I physically couldn't do it each day. I was working full-time the first year, so it was like nooks and crannies in my day. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm getting stuck because I literally can't, things are slipping through the cracks. So I brought her on 5 hours a week. It's crazy to think of where it's gone. But this is what I like to do. I like to learn it first. So I taught myself Facebook ads, funnels, all that stuff. I like to learn it first. In the podcast editing, I did all that. And then which I don't recommend, you should outsource. But what I like to do is get in there myself and master it and get it down. And then I say, who can take this? Who can I hand this to? Because Miss Creative here, I need to get onto the next thing and go all in. I can't just keep adding and adding. I mean, how many balls in the air would you be juggling? Yeah. It would be nuts.
I think it's a really smart thing. It's how I built my business to a degree up until a certain point.
Yeah.
But it was really important in the beginning to get my hands dirty and understand how the systems worked so that then when I did hire someone, and I could have an intelligent conversation with them. I knew the questions to ask. I could guide people if they were going in the wrong or opposite direction or hitting a wall. And I knew it also allowed me to know what questions to ask them. I've seen that work over here because I got my hands dirty and I was in all the weeds and the nitty gritty. Yes. And I know that it is impossible that a company would not have a solution, even if it's a different company, because this is how these things work. Like you have a base level understanding. Yes. And I think that's super important. Otherwise, you never know if the people who are working with you, whether the contractors or employees, if it's a limitation in their creativity and their problem solving or a limitation in the system and the application or the tool that you're using. So getting your hands dirty, I think, is super, super important. And then there becomes a point where that's no longer sustainable. Like if you are going to grow, like when we started our podcast, I had someone on my team. I'm like, this is your baby. I'm engaged. I'm not abdicating, but I'm asking good questions based on my years of marketing and being in business. But I, just using that same example, and there will be something else in your business where you start with someone else owning it. And I think that's like how you keep scaling.
Totally. You absolutely hit the nail on the head. And it also helps with pricing. That's another thing I hear a lot is I don't know what to charge my VA, or they're saying this. And when you've done it or done enough of it, you can start to say, like, I pay my Facebook ads girl a flat right now. Now that I've done it myself and built them, I'm like, I don't want to touch that with a 10-foot pole. I'll pay you a lot of money to do that. So you start to see, like, I know how much I make per day on average.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll ask myself, am I going to really go do that in Pinterest right now? Or should I pay my VA $20 an hour to go do that? Oh, it makes more sense to me stay over here and create and coach. So you actually can start to realize when you make that choice to delegate or not, well, what are you worth? What is your time worth? And it's
what's
typically, what
the opportunity cost?
What is
right?
the opportunity cost? And it's typically tenfold, sometimes 100 times full of what you would pay someone. And also too, where's your zone of genius? Spend the time doing the stuff you love. I love creating and I love being on camera. Like, that's my thing. I love writing and I love video, anything like this. And if I'm editing a YouTube video, that doesn't really make sense because it's not my zone of genius. I don't love it and I want to bang my head against the wall. So yeah, at first, but as far as getting the social media going, start with one and get it going and then say, okay, maybe someone could create my graphics for my Facebook group. Maybe I don't have to be the one to do that. We have a theme for each day. They have enough to draw from. Let me have someone else do that. I'm going to go over to Instagram and I'm going to learn how to take beautiful photos and use filters and make them look awesome and start to connect with my audience over there, because no one can take your selfie. Like, I mean, you can get a photographer, but like, that's your face, right? Or you going live in a video. No one can do your push-ups for you. You have to do that. So yes, you definitely like get it going. And then when you can hand it off and delegate, because if you want to get to 1 million, I want to do 4 or 5 million next year, there's going to be even more things that I'm delegating, right? At that point, I'm almost just working on my company. I'm not working in it. A very little amount of time will be in it, obviously. And it's those higher level creativity is where I'm going to spend my time, which is what I love to do.
I love it. I love it 100%. So going back to social media, what do you think the myths are about social media that you would like to debunk? Like that you get like all ranty about, like, oh.
Yes, I get really ranty when people, I call it, you need permission marketing. I think Seth Godin wrote that book. When people pitch you something, I see it in LinkedIn all the time. You know how there's those auto messages, and if any of you have them set up,
crazy.
It's okay. Like, I'm not trying to say, but when I connect and I get it right away, I'm like, that's a bot. That's not you. But when they're like, hey, Joan, or whatever, hey, here's my email list. If you want to opt in every week, I send this out, or here's my cool video. And I'm just like, hold the train. Like, you don't know if I'm qualified. Am I a prospect?
You are speaking my language. Yes.
But it's like they're shooting themselves in the foot. If they would just say, hey, tell me a bit about yourself. And then I do. And then they say, this is what I do. Love to chat with you about that. And I'm like, oh, I'm good. Great. We move on. I refer them. We have a good relationship. We don't get it destroyed by that first message.
You know, I think this is really interesting. I don't have such a problem with bots as long as it's like super, super clear.
Right.
I have a problem with and this happens all the time on LinkedIn, which is like reaching out and then it's like, here, buy my widget. Right.
Yes.
And even the like, hey, I'd love to get to know you. We seem to have a bunch of friends in common. Like, on the 50th, actually the 10th version of that, you're like, oh, I know what this is.
I know what this is. Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an interesting challenge because on the one hand, you know, I built my business on personal contact, having real conversations with people. And it's actually a challenge that we're going through right now in the business on the social media side. So I'm interested to hear your take on this, because as we're scaling, my focus is on creating content for the podcast and building the coaching programs and coaching my ass off. And
which you do so well.
Yeah, right. Like, and there's so much content that we're creating, and I'm the genesis of that, that I've taken my eye off of the personal touch within the social media. We're still doing like our lives and our one-to-many kinds of things, but I really did build the business on like real conversations, seeing what people were talking about, engaging in truth.
Yeah.
And yet doing that is not scalable. One to 3,000, you can't have that. So people go into this massive outreach, and we've made tons of mistakes on this. Like, I'll raise my hand and I'm willing to say, oh yeah, that went wrong. That was a bad idea. Like, can I give you an example, Kimberly?
Yes, I would love it.
I don't know if you have done this, but I'm sure you'll appreciate it. So At one point, we realized that someone on my team could log into my Facebook account and send DMs as me. This was about a year ago, to invite people to the summit that we have, or to invite people, more recently this year, to invite people to these virtual coffees we were having. And they were reaching out to people as me. And we thought, oh, that's scalable. That's brilliant. No, it's not. Because, and I was like, oh, this is so, and I had that feeling in my stomach, like the niggle, like something's off about this. Like, it seems like a really good idea, but this is not a good idea. Why is this not a good idea? Well, it's not a good idea because it looks like you talking to someone and they don't like you and they've never heard from you before. And you
or it's your niece.
Right. Or it's your mother-in-law, whatever, and so, I mean, we did all sorts of like triage and strategy to figure out who to send things to. And finally I was like, if you want to do this, that's great. But tell people that that you are a team member, taken over my Facebook account for the day, because we're really excited about this and we want to reach out to you. Like, just have the friggin' honest conversation about what's going on here.
Yes.
Otherwise it's like, it just was not sitting well. And so we've made 1,001 mistakes like that.
Oh yeah, we did that for a while. And then something weird happened where I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's not going to work. It's technically, you're not supposed to either, but yeah, we did that. Oops. Oh yeah, I know. No, it's okay. No, we did that and I didn't even know. We did it for like probably the first year. And then one day Anna was like, your messenger is out of control. She's like, I want to take it over. I'm like, well, what do you mean? She's like, I want to say, this is Anna. So they know I'm the guard dog, like, no. And I was like, I love that. So what we started doing is redirecting. So yes, I want to connect with people, but I don't need to connect with everyone because they're not all my ideal avatar that I want to go to the next level with. So we redirect, like, hey, we've got a great resource here, units tab, whatever. She'll kind of filter. And then she gives me a digest. So she's like, hey, left all these in your inbox. You need to personally reach out. Then I'm voice memoing. I'm like, hey, I mean, every day I'm in my messenger. It's a big commitment, but I can tell you, I'm positive that's why I have such a loyal, invested audience, and why you do as well, because you did build that foundation through that initial one-on-one. But I'm spending time with the people who she's vetted out. And then this has really helped us a lot. And I learned this from Kelly, is my coaches, I have 4 coaches that work in my program. They reach out from their own accounts to our new students, our new people. Hi, I'm Kimberly, one of Kimberly's coaches. I'm going to be working with you. And it's like, oh, okay. Kimberly's approved this person. It's not the same because they want me, right? But then it becomes like, well, you're not as, I have to get in your programs to access you. Oh, then they're more likely to get in the programs. If they want private coaching, they pay a premium for it. And I don't privately coach a lot of people. So it's actually, instead of going that grassroots, that's what I did to get started, how do I keep going there? You find your ways to have that high touch where you can, but yeah, you are limited. I mean, we can only do so much. So I think that's why live video is so important. That's why, anytime you can do a free challenge and get in front of them and just love on them, keep showing up and let them know that you're there. That's why consistency is so important. They'll feel connected with you. And I get it. You probably get this in Messenger all the time. I feel like I know you. I feel like my twin. Right? Oh, I feel like I can't wait to meet you and just hug you. And that's the power of what you can build.
Absolutely. Yeah. So now, you said you worked in corporate previously, and I know that there are a lot of people who do work in corporate, have day jobs. Did you always have that entrepreneurial spirit?
Yes. So when I was little, I remember I must have been first grade. I don't think I was kindergarten, but I had a neighborhood club with like folders, and you had to come to the meetings at the picnic table to get your folder. I don't even know what the club was, but it was like for the neighborhood kids. And I was just always like, I used to make bracelets and sell them. I started working after school every day when I was 14 and to pay for college and start prepping for that. So kind of learned that right off the get-go. And I've always done stuff on the side, consulting, all of that. So definitely, it just took me a long time to kind of figure it out, and I think sometimes people look like overnight successes. They never are. There's always years in the making. I mean, look at Rachel Hollis. If you hear her real story, I mean, no one knew who she was for 10 years, So like whoever you're seeing out there, if you're just seeing the good stuff, they need to show you a little bit behind the scenes, because there's always a story.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So what do you think success is based on?
I always say it's tenacity, grit, and perseverance. And, you do need to have something you're passionate about. Like when you find your thing, like your zone of genius, you just love it. Like Les Brown talks about this all the time. There's a dream planted in your heart. That's divine. That's from God. So like if you feel unease or you just feel demotivated, you're not tapping into that. You're not listening to it. And when you clear out the clutter and face your demons and whatever those are, like I did with the alcohol addiction, when you clear that out, you actually can hear. You can get this divine intuition telling you, this is your next step. I mean, I couldn't tell you what I'm doing next year. Like I will literally be like, team, guess what? We're launching this new program. And they're like, what? Like I'm so able to hear it. But I think success is where you get to choose how you spend your day. And every day you go to sleep at night knowing you made a difference. Like when I pass away one day, I know for a fact there's going to be a lot of people that are sad, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, like I'm so glad I met her because she made my life better. And that makes me sleep really good at night, but it also allows me to have the energy to be the light for other people, because right now more than ever we need that. We need those pillars, we need that strength, we need someone showing up going, come on, let's rock today. And you get to be that person when you found that thing that lights you up.
Yeah, absolutely. So success is based not just on the tenacity, perseverance, and grit, but on that spiritual DNA, on that thing that spiritual like tapping,
yes.
Tapping into that, the divine calling.
Yes. Absolutely. You know it when you're like, that's it.
Absolutely.
You know it.
Now, my experience with it is that I know it, that's it, but that doesn't mean that it's smooth sailing every day, la-di-da-di-da-di-da, right? Money falls from the sky. Like, I think people have this misconception that like, when I find my thing, there's no more challenges or growth or work or, not that I'm advocating for struggle, because I think you can move through the challenges and the growth without the struggle. I think that that's an art, and you learn that along the way. But we both landed on this podcast interview, and we're both laughing before we started the recording. We're like, you're like, I'm a hot mess. I'm like, I need to take my thing off of the printer, right? Like, and it's not that things are falling apart, but like it's busy and stuff's happening, and it's not all like,
hearts and flowers.
Yeah, exactly. I say rainbows and unicorns, but same idea.
It's not just rainbows and unicorns. Yeah, it's not at all. And
and that's where the perseverance, the grit, and the tenacity comes in.
Yes. And having a company and having real people that work for me, and they're using that income to pay for their families, like the responsibility is higher. But what I'll say that I started working on last year, because as my audience grew, the haters come out. And what I learned, someone gave me this great advice. He said, when he started becoming more successful, is he would track the amount of time he would be down when something would knock him. So like if there was a hater or something happened, he said that time got shorter and shorter and shorter. And I started paying attention because I had shared I struggle with depression, anxiety, pretty much in check now. But before I would be out for like days if something would happen. And now it's about 5 to 10 minutes. I mean, I'm talking ugly stuff if it comes up, which is rare. But if something comes up, within 10 minutes, I'm like, no, I don't have to own that. I led with a pure heart. If I need to apologize to someone, I will. No, absolutely not owning that. And I'm going to dust myself up and get up, because I've got lives to change here, people. But 5-10 minutes, that's very healthy. It's okay to feel that way. And if you're like, oh gosh, 5 to 10 minutes sounds like a dream, make it your goal. Make it your goal that you bounce back and get into that place that feels really good to you as soon as possible. Because once you kind of get that down, that's a really good discipline. And it's also a sign of self-confidence, where Absolutely. You're like just owning who you are and feeling really comfortable in your skin.
What I love about what you said, and it is a practice, and it can happen, and you can get there. But what I love about what you said was, I don't have to own that, or I need to say I'm sorry. Right? Like there are times like there needs to be a level of honesty and transparency and self-awareness. So if you have done something that's off, you own it, you clean it up as quickly as you can. Okay. And there was a time, and I have made mistakes over and over and over again. Okay.
Me too.
And like, seriously, like many mistakes. And there's this one woman who I love dearly, who I keep making a mistake with, like something about it. Like, I just keep, I'm like, here the little witness is like, now why does that keep happening with her? And it's like, it's been a year with like foot in mouth, like we made that same, how did that happen? Right. And I, confusing and flummoxing, but you have to laugh about it also. And you can't let it make yourself wrong and bad and go into guilt and shame and into your hidey hole and no visibility and stopping everything. So
Yeah.
I really love what you said about like, okay, I need to discern in this moment, is this something that's their stuff? And is this something that's my stuff? And if it's my stuff, I need to clean it up, you know?
Yeah.
And
also,
then how quickly can you clean it up and move on from it?
and move on. Yeah. It's taking ownership, but you'll also find a lot of times in social media about coaching, sometimes you need to say, I hear you are upset about that and I'm sorry you feel that way. And I just had yesterday, someone commented on, I said, true or false, your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. Total Bob Proctor. And some girl was like, don't even go there. And she was going crazy. And I thought, wow. And I thought there's a story there, but I don't have to own her response. I'm totally allowed to post whatever I want. We can have a discussion about it. I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm sorry, because she was upset that I posted it. I was like, wow, this is my wall. So I'm going to post whatever I want. But, you know, sometimes you're going to have that happen. And it's to say, people are allowed to have their opinions and so are you. And you are allowed to have a voice. In fact, you need to use your voice and be that pillar and strength, you know, that the strength of being a woman and being the unstoppable woman, because we need that. Like, we need more people like us to say, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. And I'm going to shout it from the rooftops and hopefully inspire other people to do the same.
Absolutely. Now, do you ever not respond to people? Like let people have their feelings, but not engage?
Oh, I always do. And I think it's just like the teacher in me. So what I'll do is, for example, if they say something, you know, that's just inappropriate, I'll say, like, I had someone, she was
but like this woman who you just gave the example of.
Oh yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, I
do you
will.
ever just like, okay, that's their stuff.
Yep.
I don't need to.
Yep, I will. And I'll just say, yeah. And that actually, that one, I was like, you know, I'm going to hide this comment because it could take this whole feed in the wrong direction. It was one of the first. Sometimes I'll just leave it and let people have, of course I want them to have their opinion, but it was like kind of the tone of it was very negative. You don't have, like, so people will message me, someone said this really horrible thing about my product, like if they're network marketing, what do I do? I'm like, you delete it. And if they do it again, you block them. Like, you don't have to let people be like that in your space. Like, it's still like your own little real estate on social media.
Oh, very interesting. I love that. I love that attitude. I mean, I do that. Quite frankly, I get a lot of men making comments and because of my first name, this is kind of a funny, but because of my first name, they tend to all come from Arab speaking worlds. Even though I'm not of Arab descent, my name is from that region.
Okay.
And so I get all these like, you're so beautiful. I love you. You're amazing. And you know, the best was, what best worst, I don't know if you how you want to see it, but like someone sending a picture of like a woman with an Uzi, right? And like in the a burqa, and a dress, and I was like, I'm so clear, like block, right? And like not allowed in my space.
No.
And I mean, sometimes they slip through and I don't see them or whatever, but
but you bring up a good point, because that's a mental block for people when they go over to Instagram or a new place. They're like, there's all these men messaging me. I'm like, then don't follow other male accounts and block them. You will start to build up this female based, if that's what you want. And it works every time when people are like, okay, but I think that's an excuse people will make up. And it's like, no, you get to choose what this looks like for you. And you don't have to honor or hold any of that in your online space. Absolutely not. This is a good point.
And I think there's a deeper thing here that should be we can explore a little bit, that I think is important, which is the underlining mindset that we have to take care of other people, or right, like, or that
own their junk,
right, or that we have to protect their feelings, that we're responsible for their feelings. Like, am I a bad human being because I'm blocking men from the Middle East? You know, is that racist? I had a moment where I was like thinking about it. Actually, they're all hitting on me. This is not racist. This is about like how I want to spend my time. It's okay. Right.
Yeah, it is. And it goes back to your heart, right? You're a servant leader. You want to, if your energy is being taken away by someone, then it's your responsibility to protect your energy with everything that you have. So you're like, bless and release. What should we call it? Block and release.
Right. Totally. Block and release. I love that.
Bye. Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's that's a challenging one for, I think it shows up on social media. I think it shows up in client coaching relationships.
Mhm.
You know, I coach women from many different industries, but oftentimes they're coaches themselves. And there's questions on like needing to take care of clients. And I'm really big on personal responsibility. And it's
Me
not that
too.
I won't meet you and support you and help you. Like I'm a very all in kind of person when I'm coaching someone, but I'm also not available for your drama, and I'm not
Mhm.
available for you crossing boundaries. And what's interesting is that when I first started coaching 6-7 years ago, that happened so much, right? Like I didn't have any, I really thought that I had to do it all, right? And do it all
Because it's
for
the
them.
conditioning. I mean, that's how I was raised, to be a good girl and be quiet and you don't complain. And, I remember there was this client, it was 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. And she's like, I need you to respond. I go, you just texted me on a Saturday night at 11 o'clock. I will not be responding to this. I'll get back to you when I get back to you. And she still continued to coach on with me. It's like she needed someone just to
Yeah.
show her there's boundaries. Like if I don't teach her that, then she's gonna keep doing each other's, but she's also needs to learn how she needs to be treated. Like we have a
It's
duty.
actually a sign of low self-esteem for the individual,
That makes a lot of sense. That
isn't it?
actually makes a ton of sense.
Yeah. And what's interesting is when you start showing up, and this is whether you're coaching or you have clients in different industries, it's any sort of client uh, service professional relationship, or even in love relationships, romantic relationships, that you if you stop showing up available for something, it will stop showing up in your life.
Oh,
Okay.
gold. I just got chills. That's so
Yeah.
good.
And I mean, it's the law of vibration. It's it's who you're being. And it's absolutely like, I just don't have those kinds of clients anymore.
It's so funny. Someone was just saying, "Oh, I keep getting this money objection," and I'm like, I was same space, and I was like, I never get that ever. I don't understand, but that's why. Because a long time ago, I worked on that, where it was like, no, this is worth every penny, and this is why, and spent that time. Well, why do you think I never get that objection anymore?
Yeah. Isn't
That's
that
exactly
interesting?
why. So you could
Yeah.
use in any area of your life.
Absolutely,
Oh, that's
because you're
awesome.
not available for it. It's no longer in your worldview of who you are and
Yeah.
how the world works. It's like you are so clear, this is who I am,
Hmm.
and then that's what shows up. Now, what's interesting is like it's an iterative process. Like you're always seeing things show up, and not everything is rainbows and unicorns. So
Right.
when the big rain cloud comes, you're like, oh, how am I showing up? Why is that coming into my life?
Hmm.
What do I need to do to be at cause and change that? So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So okay, back to social media, because I want to pull out as much little goodies and nuggets from you. So if let's ask this in a 3-part question.
Okay.
Okay. So what would you do? What is the biggest game changer right now on social media and here's the 3-part question for the person who's just starting out, has like
Hmm.
very little following, someone has a moderate following, and someone who is like you or above and has this like huge following. So
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
would you say, and are those all 3 the same, or are they different for the different levels that people are at?
I think that there's some, common themes as far as the growth, but I would say if you're new, I would pick one piece of signature content that you're going to become awesome at, and you're going to focus on planning it out, promoting it ahead of time. Once you get it released, sharing it, everywhere. It could be your podcast if you want to go the podcast route. It could be, for me, it was Facebook Lives. That's my number one place of reach each week, is a weekly Facebook Live, but it's at a certain time, same day, so I can promote it ahead of time. Everyone knows it's happening. You can send it on an email. I love texting reminders, but it could be every week you release a new YouTube. I would figure out, where do you see yourself creating content? And the nice thing is with podcasts, if you're like, well, I don't know about the whole visual, then you can pre-record too. You can pre-record if you feel more comfortable without a live audience. If you're like me and you just totally love live and you interact and engage, live video would be great for you. But I would figure out a piece of content, and then I would spend the entire week working around promoting that piece of content. Get really good at the one thing, because if you can become known for something, you get clear on your messaging. What's that content? What audience are you targeting? What's the purpose of it? And then what's the path? Like, don't just create a video to create a video. Are we going to offer a lead magnet? Are we going to get them into a Facebook group, pop them into a challenge? But what is the goal of this weekly piece of content you produce? And spend a lot of time on it, not all day, but write it out. Like, don't just go, you're in your car and like, hey guys, I had a thought, like it's really like show up on purpose, show up like a boss. And when you start to force yourself to elevate a little bit, you actually will attract the exact people you want to work with. It'll be magical. You're just going to be like, oh my gosh, it's totally working. So if you're new, I would say find your one thing. If you are intermediate, I would say get some help. Get a VA. That would be like, just say, okay, what are the things I'm doing every day that I don't need to be doing, right? What is something I can get off my plate? Because you're probably in that spot where you are stuck a little bit with the growth, like what happened to me, because you don't have enough hands on deck. So I would get some help and then see what you can have them take over with the social media. Is it them replying to comments? There's certain platforms you can use to kind of have them interact for you. And the third level, if you're just like, I feel good, I'm making the money, I've got it going on, I would look at scaling, which is what you teach. But I would say, okay, out of everything I've done so far, what can I clean up? What can I get to be more efficient? Don't necessarily launch something else or get onto another platform. Really do an audit and say, okay, what's working right now? What isn't? Where's my quality of life? Like if you're like crushing it with content, you might be exhausted, burnout could be coming. You got to say, okay, what can I do to automate this, but where you're still high touch and spending the time doing the things that you love, like we talked about, making sure you've got a good infrastructure for your staff. Like get your staff where you need them to be, because I'm telling you, if you can get them to buy into the vision and they're aligned with the mission, they're going to be your little soldiers out there, but that's going to allow you to 10x your results. And that way, every month you don't start at zero. You're not like, what am I creating this month? You've got reoccurring revenue coming in. You've got that flagship program, and then you can just go from there.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, before I ask my last question, where can people find you, and tell us a little bit more about like the path that they should follow if they want to do more with you?
Yes. So I would say if you're on Facebook, find me on Facebook, The Goal Digger Girl. It's GOAL. It'll come right up. And then like it, and that way you get notified when I go live. I go live every Monday at 1:00 Central. And then if you're on Instagram, same thing, The Goal Digger Girl. I release 2 new YouTubes every week, 2 podcasts, blog posts. My blog is The Goal Digger Girl. So whatever.com, wherever you like to, however you like to digest content, I'm probably there. And that's across everywhere. Twitter, LinkedIn, you can find me at The Goal Digger Girl.
Fantastic. Okay. So go check out her stuff. She's a wealth of information. Okay. So my final question, which I love and I'm curious about, what your answer is going to be. What makes you an unstoppable woman?
That's a really good question. I love it. I would say what makes me an unstoppable woman is that even though there are struggles and challenges, like I have a very strong-willed blessing. I mean, I haven't slept straight through. My husband was like, go stay in a hotel and get a night's sleep and work on some content. And like, he was a gift. That was the first night of sleep I've gotten in like this whole year. So even though there's challenges and we have online learning and we have the pandemic and global, all of that, I still every day get up and I'm the light for my people. Like, I don't care if right before I come in live, Elise is screaming, has a meltdown. I come in and I show up. I'm still real. And I'm like, hey, don't worry about the noise there. But I still show up. And I think when you can become that consistent and reliable, like the sun is rising and sun is setting, then what happens is you build your self-confidence, but your subconscious mind also is bought in. And my subconscious mind is bought in. And every day I'm like, oh my goodness, today's going to be amazing. What can I do to impact others? And, and really, I feel like working through others is really how we're going to change this world. I really do. And so being an unstoppable woman is all about showing up, being intentional, and being super consistent and rocking your mindset.
Absolutely. 100%. And what I heard there was you didn't use the word, but, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's keeping commitments to yourself.
Do it, right? But even though you don't feel like it, you still do it. That's huge.
It's so huge because it builds self-trust, it builds worth. And, your kid might be screaming. The other day I was doing a private retreat with some of my high-level mastermind people, and my beautiful, amazing dog starts peeing all over the house.
Sorry,
You know?
it's not funny, but I can relate because my kids are little.
It's like, really, is this happening
This
right
is happening
now?
right now.
Right? Like, I've got the dog walker. I thought it was good. I thought we had it. Like, why is this happening?
Yep.
And it was like, okay, let's not miss a beat. I did look over there and go, what the effity F, right? But I said, talk amongst yourself. I need to handle this. I'll be back in 10 minutes. And like,
Nothing stops you.
Nothing, like it was a drag, and we're working out potty training and all of that. But there are things that regardless of what's going on, and that's kind of a cute and silly example, but there have been times where the health issues come up or the this has come up, and keeping that commitment regardless is a big thing. And then you also obviously have to look at, do you have too many commitments? Going back to your thing about like, pick your lane, pick that one place on social that you're doing your thing, and keep that commitment. So brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
A blast having you on, Kimberly, and let's do it again. And thank you for sharing all your golden gold digger nuggets. And that's a wrap. Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome. Hey, thanks so much for joining us and being part of the Unstoppable Woman movement. We have got a ton of free resources for scaling your business at theunstoppablewoman.com/free stuff. And you can find that link in the description below. So go ahead and check those out. And we'd also love your help in getting our message out to more and more women. If you'd be willing to share this video with all the unstoppable women in your life, that would be fantastic. And while you're at it, hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Reviews, likes, and comments are greatly appreciated. We go in and read them all. So thank you for those. And thanks for listening, and be unstoppable.